often those you can get quite large ones that could even be 2 servings. So ideally for fruit we want 2 servings each day. Just check. Oh yeah. Then we've got our dairy foods down the bottom there. So this is cheese, milk, yogurt, and these foods are usually what New Zealanders don't consume very much of. So they're very high in calcium. Calcium is really important because after the age of 25, we only get into 25 years old to build up our peak bone mass, and then once we turn 25, it starts to deteriorate, so we can't get any of it back, we can only retain it. So for that reason, it's important to eat enough of your calcium-rich foods. The ideal scenario is 2 servings a day, so 1 serving would be like a bottle of yogurt or a cup of milk. So if you think about what you eat during the day, if you're having cups of tea or if you have a smoothie or some cheese, you might want to think about if you would reach that 2 to 3 serves a day. Carbohydrate servings I didn't mention. Does anyone know what the ideal carbohydrate servings per day?
For serving is 1.
A fist, yeah, is 1 serving. And how many servings roughly a day should we have? What is the Ministry of Health guidelines? It's about 4 to 6, and it can really differ because if you were, say, an elite athlete, you would need a lot more carbohydrates. If you live quite a sedentary life, you would need on the lesser end. So 1 serving would be like 1 piece of bread or 1 fist-sized serving of cooked potato or pasta. Protein, anyone know how many servings of protein a day? Yeah, this one's about 2 to 3, definitely 2. And the ideal scenario is to have protein at each meal time. And the reason for that is because it fills you up. So if you think about breakfast, say if your normal breakfast is toast. If you have toast with banana or jam or something on top of it, you're only getting your carbohydrates. But if you have peanut butter or egg with it, then that's how you can add your protein in. And if you did that for snacks and stuff as well, so whether it's hummus or peanut butter or nuts, yogurt has a bit of protein, then that's going to easily meet your protein requirements for the day.
But I was my question.
Yeah.
If you're vegetarian and then if you only eat those protein,
yes.
but there's a dry things you need to cook.
Yes.
To soft, you still can get the protein after cook.
Yeah. So you definitely can. Do you mean like dried lentils?
Dry legumes and dals.
Yeah.
You need to cook, very long time to make it soft to drink.
Yes.
Still we get the protein?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Still very high protein once they're
Oh,
cooked. Yeah.
because we are vegetarians. So.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Okay, so healthy eating is expensive, so I'm just going to cover a few of these and then show you some shopping tips and some meal ideas as well. So healthy eating is expensive, comes up all the time, but it really is down to your perception. So here is a bit of a breakdown of a few different things. So we've got like an example up there, biscuits, chips, toast, fizzy, all of these things are relatively cheap. But if you look at them and think back to those food groups, there's not really anywhere in the food groups that they would fit. If we think about how we might feel if that was our day of eating, like a crunchy bar, a muesli bar, pie, and a biscuit, doesn't necessarily, it's not going to make you feel great or energized. So looking at something like that is quite an expensive day of eating when you compare it to something like this. And these foods all fit within those food groups. They're roughly the same price, and they give you a lot more fibre, so a lot more fullness, and they're going to keep your energy levels stable for a much longer time. So when we think healthy eating is expensive, it really comes down to what else you're purchasing in your groceries and trying to shop a little bit savvy with what's in season as well and what's on special. So if we looked at a grocery or supermarket receipt, for example, and if you went through and highlighted all of the things that you didn't necessarily need, so it might be fizzy or ice cream or chips, any of those things on this previous slide, then we might start to see that we could have saved ourselves $10, $20 or so to spend on some of these healthier options. So that's a good way of looking at whether or not healthy eating actually is expensive, or if it's just our perception and maybe where we're quite happily putting our money into other foods. Superfoods. So I need to buy superfoods or organic products to eat healthy. So we do get asked this one quite a bit. Does anyone have any thoughts around that before I carry on? Is that something that you have heard before, the superfoods thing? Yeah?
I usually use the organic one, but I don't know the superfood.
Yeah. So superfoods is quite trendy and it has been for quite a few years, and it's a bit of a marketing term. So superfoods are generally things like, they're very specific. So like almonds and chia seeds, blueberries, kale, salmon, all of these things are quite specific, and basically they are really good foods. They're definitely healthy for us, but you don't have to eat those exact ones to get all of the benefits, and you don't have to buy products that are labelled as superfood or organic to reap the benefits. Organic is just a way that the food is grown. If that's important for your health, that you want to avoid sprays and fertilisers and things, then that's fine. But as far as Ministry of Health guidelines go, it's perfectly safe for us to eat normal supermarket produce. So eat a variety of foods from these food groups, and if we look at what is deemed a superfood here, say blueberries for example, we would almost be better off to eat something that's much cheaper, like a mixture of frozen smoothie berries, because you get a huge amount more of variety in there, and it's a lot cheaper as well. Same with like chia seeds or almonds, you still get those good proteins, the unsaturated fats that you get from the chia seeds if you were to have something like peanuts or a cheaper version. Same with salmon. So salmon is great, but you don't have to eat specifically salmon to get really great benefits. Even just having fish a couple of times a week, whether it's tinned or fresh or frozen, it doesn't really matter. Has anybody seen any of these things? So the coconut oil, the aloe vera drink, the apple cider vinegar, rock salt, Himalayan salt. Has anyone seen or heard these things being talked about? Yep. Yeah. Coconut oil has definitely been sort of talked about quite a lot in the media, but coconut oil has the same saturated fat content as butter, so it is not great for your cholesterol levels. Yeah. So the better oils to go for, and the Heart Foundation have a good breakdown of this on their website, but the better oils to go for are ones like your plant-based ones, so canola or sunflower, rice bran, olive, something that tells you where it has come from. Those ones would be better off, much lower in saturated fat, so much better for your heart.
Which oil is the best one? Which oil?
Oh, they're all like much the same in terms of like sunflower, canola, olive oil, rice bran. Those ones are all fine.
All fine, okay.
Yeah, the ones to stay away from would be ideally this one, but also ones like salad and cooking oil, or ones or vegetable oil. If they don't tell you exactly where it's come from, sometimes, and you can check the ingredients, but sometimes they add in palm oil, which again is going to be a bit high in saturated fat. Apple cider vinegar. Has anyone heard about apple cider vinegar? Yeah.
Tastes vile. I don't
So,
use it.
this one and lemon juice, so doing like a shot of apple cider vinegar or a shot of lemon juice has sort of been circulating for a while as something that is proposed to be beneficial for health, but again there's very, very little evidence, and we just have to be careful with things like this, which are very acidic because they can take the enamel off your teeth, and also they can burn your esophagus as well. Aloe vera drink, has anyone seen that before? Yeah. This one isn't quite so common, but I have had a lot of people come in and they are drinking aloe vera drink because it is, along with a lot of other drinks, it's advertised to be really good for our health, but it is really, really high in sugar, And something like this, there's no evidence that we need to consume aloe vera to benefit our health. Rock salt. Yeah. So in terms of salt, all salt does the same thing in our body. So salt tends to raise our blood pressure and it puts a bit of a strain on our kidneys as well. So if you're trying to look after your blood pressure and kidneys, salt would be something to reduce on the whole. So it doesn't matter if it's Himalayan rock salt or pink salt or either salt, it doesn't really matter. The idea is everybody should be reducing their salt intake. Smoothies. So smoothies is an interesting one, and the reason that one's on there is because let's say that the goal was weight loss, for example. Smoothies can add quite a calorie hit, and same in terms of our blood sugars. So if you're trying to look after your blood sugars for diabetes or pre-diabetes, if we're adding in lots and lots of fruit in there, or sweetened yogurt or something, we can end up consuming quite a lot of fruit or sugar in one hit that we wouldn't normally eat. So if you added like a banana, some milk, some yogurt, some nuts, it can end up being quite a bit of food that you wouldn't normally eat in one go. So that's something just to watch out for. They definitely can be a really healthy food, and I'm not saying that they're bad, but just be mindful of that. If your blood sugars are spiking a bit high or something, it might be down to that. So healthy eating doesn't have to mean a complete diet makeover. It could just mean some healthy swaps, which aren't expensive either. So something like looking at what your snacks are, whether you're having muesli bars, biscuits, chips, pies, pretty much anything like that that is purchased or in a box tends to be quite expensive. I know muesli bars, for example, can be quite an expensive snack choice, especially if we compare it to something like fruit, peanut butter on toast, peanuts or other kinds of nuts, chopped up carrots and hummus and pita breads. All of those things are really filling, probably more filling than the treat foods, and much cheaper as well. Another myth here is salads are the best foods for healthy eating, but are so expensive. And this is not just about salads, but it's probably in general, because I know lots of people get told by friends or family that they should try certain diets, and they might do it for a while, but some of them are quite expensive. So whether it's like a shake or the keto or something where you've got to buy lots of stuff. So there is no one-size-fits-all approach. You don't have to consume salads all year round or soups all year round, smoothies. It's better to try and stick to those 4 food groups, try and eat a range of those foods, fill up on protein when you can at your meal times, and buy food that's in season. So during your colder months, if you want to still fill up on veggies, which ideally we should be doing, we don't have to have salads. There's lots of other ways of doing it. Casseroles, soups, curries. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, and something that has worked for somebody else isn't necessarily going to work for you. So it's about figuring out what's sustainable for you in terms of not just your budget, but in terms of your lifestyle as well, and what you're actually going to enjoy eating. Okay, shopping tips. So here's a few tips which I know will be written down in your booklets. So before you leave home, plan a menu for the week. I know during lockdown people got really good at doing this, hopefully, because we could only really go to the supermarket once. And that's probably a good thing because it forced us to get organised for the week. So if you go to the supermarket and you're buying everything you need for a week, you know when you're coming home from work, wherever you've been, that's what you're cooking that night. And it gives you a bit of structure, same with your lunches as well. So writing a shopping list, check the cupboards and see what you have. It is painful when you have to go through your cupboards and you find expired food that you end up throwing away, which you could have probably used if you just had a look before you went to the supermarket. And know how much that you have to spend so that you don't get to the checkout and get a shock. At the supermarket you can make some healthy swaps which don't cost anything. So switching white bread for whole grain or grainy, or switching your blue top milk for a light blue, it's got green there, or yellow. Stock up on non-perishables when they're on special, so lots of tins when they are on special rather than waiting till you really need store brands, so budget value pans. You'll probably notice that the expensive brands like Watties are always at our eye level, and then the cheaper ones are down the bottom and right at the top. And that is the way that the supermarket is set out, but often those cheaper ones have come from the exact same place as the more expensive brands. So it's good to have a look out for those things. And of course, purchase in season fruit and veggies. And if you're following recipes and they're telling you to buy some kind of vegetable that is $20 a kilo or so, you can just switch things out and substitute to make sure that it's going to fit with what's in season. And don't shop on an empty stomach. We've probably all made that mistake and you end up buying a lot more than what you had intended. At the supermarket, use the unit price. So most supermarkets have, if you look closely on the price, it tells you how much the food is per 100 grams or per kilo. So even if you're buying a bag that appears to be more expensive, the price per 100 grams or kilo is a much more affordable way of purchasing that food. Check the higher and lower shelves, which I already mentioned, and of course avoid purchasing those junk foods which we may not be comfortable with paying $4 for a cauliflower, but then quite happy to pay $4 for a block of chocolate. So it's interesting to keep an eye out for those things if you are regularly buying them. So healthy meal planning tips. Make meals from scratch. Use cheaper cuts of meat and look for your lean meats, because if you're going to cut the fat off anyway, it's going to save you the price per kilo if you're just buying it when it's lean. Go meat free several nights a week. Does anyone have vegetarian meals already at home? It's okay if not, yeah. A few people, so they are a lot cheaper. If you're using things like lentils or chickpeas, kidney beans, those things are really low cost and you still get quite a lot of protein in each one. Frozen veggies are just as good as fresh, and the same with fruit. Tinned options are fine as well, so tinned tomatoes, for example, that counts as a vegetable and it's a very, very cheap way of having veggies. Same with fruit. If you're buying tinned fruit that's in juice rather than the syrup, then that's going to be a great option as well, and you can have that as a substitute for fresh if you're not a big winter fruit fan. Some examples of easy and cheap dinners. There's some pictures up there which will be in there for you. So something where you can throw everything in a pan if it's just a little bit of meat and some flavouring, some vegetables. Omelets are great and you can stack them up with whatever you have in the fridge. If you're doing that weekly shop and you're always trying to buy some kind of veggies, or you're keeping some veggies in the freezer, then it makes it a lot easier to do these kinds of things. Bake things on toast or eggs on toast, that's perfectly fine. If you don't have time or you're trying to avoid getting takeaways or something else. Quiche or frittata, toasted sandwiches, baked potatoes, lots of ideas. Yeah. Snacks as well, so I've already kind of covered snacks a little bit, but trying to avoid buying pre-packaged snacks like chips, muesli bars, biscuits, and using the options that do involve a little bit more time, because sometimes we do have to make these things, but tend to be a lot cheaper and much better for our health as well. There are lots of budgeting services around Palmerston North, so if you would like some help with planning out your budget and how much you can put into groceries and whatnot, here are some places that you can contact. So feel free to have a Google of those, and those will be on your forms as well. And here are the websites. So we normally use ones like these for our recipes. Heart Foundation have really good recipes. Healthy Food and Healthy Food Guide have good recipes as well. So have a look on there, and often they do have a cost breakdown and a serving size breakdown, so you can alter to how many people you're cooking for as well. Great, so that's everything from me. Does anybody have any questions at the moment?
Is coffee good for you?
Coffee, coffee isn't bad for you. So coffee on its own, all it is caffeine pretty much. It's like a flavoured caffeine. So it's perfectly fine. It's not going to make you gain weight. It's not going to affect your blood glucose. If you're having coffee that's made with sugar, for example, or if you're adding in lots of milk, then that's going to increase your sugar intake and your calorie intake, but on its own, coffee is okay. There is actually a safe limit for caffeine. Has anyone heard of that before?
3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
3 or 4 days.
So it's 400 milligrams a day. So to put that into perspective, that's the safe limit. The idea is if you go above that safe limit, you can start to get side effects. So you might get anxious, you might get a racing heart, you can't focus, irritability. Some of these things that people actually experience all the time but don't realise it's related to their coffee. So 400 milligrams, if you think about like a bulk coffee, those can be around 200 to 250 milligrams, and an instant can be about like 100 to 150 depending on how strong you make it. So it's actually pretty easy to get to that 400 milligrams. But yeah, that's a very long answer, but coffee's okay. Any other questions? Yeah?
Not a question, just a comment. I found that cider waste vegetables, I put it in the crock pot and have it for soup.
Ah, yeah. Like if you got leftover cooked ones.
Yeah, leftover cooked ones or just fresh veggies that I think are looking a bit
Yeah.
sad.
Good idea. And that's the beauty of a crock pot is you can put anything. And a soup, you can put anything in it. Yeah, good idea. Great. Anything else? I will be sort of here for a couple more minutes if you have other questions.